Ladies and gentlemen, the following contest, it is set for one fall. Introducing first, from Lithuania, he weighs 123 kilos, the Russian nightmare, Nikita Koloff.
Welcome back to another show, Nikita Koloff, Man Up, Real Talk with real men with real stories. And in the studio with me today, on the show today, I feel like a real man. Stu Epperson, welcome to Man Up.
It is great to be here. An honor to be here with you, Nikita Koloff. I'm just absolutely blown away by this awesome set and just to hang out with my buddy.
Well, it's great to have you down and have you in studio and on the show with us. And for those who don't know, Stu Epperson is CEO, well, really founder of Truth Radio Network and family man, has an amazing family. His whole family really going to Stu Sr., been in the radio business, Salem Radio Network for many, many years. Why don't you give our viewers just a quick backdrop on Stu Epperson Jr.?
Well, thank you. I grew up, like you said, I had radio kind of in my genes, radio family, and growing up, everyone said, hey, are you going to be running radio stations when you're older and this sort of thing?
Like your dad, right?
Yeah, just like, your Uncle Ivan's, like, you're going to be, when he brought you over from Russia, on the cargo ship, and,
wink, wink. Right.
You're going to be a wrestler just like me, and look how it worked out. Anyway, I had to work that into the material.
Yeah.
But the Lord kind of led me some different ways, and through a bunch of circumstances, after college and some other career things, God just put on my heart, driving around, wanting to hear programs like yours, your awesome radio program, which you're doing here on. I love seeing this on TV.
Yeah.
Hearing great Bible teachers like David Jeremiah and other guys. I was like looking for ways to hear those programs in my own hometown and couldn't find anything that was consistent. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool to do a little bit what my dad does and my uncle with Salem, to do that here in Winston-Salem. And so there's some great music stations and there's some other things, but there's nothing 24 hours that covered that whole area, And so the Lord just kind of opened a door for me, and I absolutely loved it. I sold country western and news talk.
Okay.
And I was one of the top sales guys at a big secular company.
So you kind of had a little bit of that background or taste of it by doing that out in the secular community. Okay. And then God burst this vision for you to launch your own radio network.
Yeah. So that's where the Truth Network started, with one signal back in 1998, somewhere in there. And then now we've got about 30 some signals in our company now, but we're on over 400 signals nationwide with our syndication. So, your radio program and podcast, It's Time to Man Up, is on a bunch of stations. Truth Talk, I host a show. You've been a great guest on my show.
Yeah.
He always gives us ratings. Something about the ratings go through the roof when Nikita Koloff is on.
Yeah, that makes me feel good.
It's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
But we syndicate a dozen or so radio programs and help them develop. We have a whole podcast network now as well. And then we work with other stations around the country to place programming on to reach a lot of people. A lot of folks are listening to radio. In fact, did you know, you may not know this, but 44% of Christian radio listeners are unchurched. So they're driving around Charlotte, or they're driving around somewhere in North America.
Right.
And they're not plugged into a church, may not even be believers, but their life is falling apart. I mean, you've seen what's happened in our culture the last couple of years. It's just it's a lot of anger, a lot of vitriol, a lot of political and racial acrimony, and all kinds of people upset and mad at each other and fighting. And so they turn on to hear something that's going to uplift them and encourage them, and they find a program like yours.
Yeah.
And they find Christ, and we have letters from people that have come to know Jesus as their Savior through Christian radio. It's changed their life, and they get plugged into a good church. They get discipled. They get help with their marriage. They get all kinds of great input on raising a family, a godly family. And so that kind of getting into that, realizing that we could have this kind of impact, is what kind of not only got me in started the Truth Network, but being a part of it to this day, as we've seen God do some great things.
Okay, so just a quick recap then. So your dad launches Salem Radio Network many years ago, and I know it's one of the top networks around the nation. God birthed a vision in you to launch Truth Radio Network based in Winston-Salem. It's headquartered Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and then you have, as you said, many affiliates around the country, and I know some incredible shows. You mentioned Dr. David Jeremiah, Greg Laurie, Alistair Begg, some of my favorites, by the way, and many other great speakers, really, ministers and shows on the Truth Radio Network. Man Talk, Masculine Journey. Robbie Dillmore has some incredible shows.
The Christian Car Guy. That's just some phenomenal shows out there. Of course, the Man Up Show you mentioned, the radio version of our now television show. I love it. Yeah.
And then the podcast platform, which obviously is part of the future as well, right?
That's exactly right. And there's a lot of folks that podcasting is listening on them in. We were doing podcasting before it was called podcasting.
Okay.
So every time, 20 years ago when I'm doing my live national show, we would make it available later on, go to the website and listen to the whole thing. Because folks that couldn't hear it right then, they wanted to hear us debating an atheist, in a gracious way. So they're like, I want to hear that show. So all our programming, since we've been in existence, we've made available online. Now, what podcasting has done is it's even more mainstream that. And it's also created a way for all kinds of folks that may never do a radio show to jump on and share some cool content and things like that. So with the Truth Podcast Network, which people can download, they can hear a lot of their favorite programs kind of on demand when they want to. But we found that our radio listeners are actually still listening even more to the radio.
Sure.
Because it's almost like the Truth Network is almost like one podcast after another with some great programming, great content. And, so.
Well, and I find, I don't know about you, Stu, but in my travels, and I spend a lot of time behind the windshield. I mean, I fly as well, but I spend a lot of time behind the windshield, which then gives me ample time to, if I want to tune in, dial in the radio, or whatever. It gives me time to do that. And I find that more and more people have been spending more and more time in their cars, whether it's commuting to work and back. I mean, I've talked to some, they'll spend, some, it just blows me away, an hour each way to work or back. I mean,
that's right.
It gives you a lot of time to listen to the radio, right? And or the podcast platform. And, I'm very thankful, really. I was going to save this for the end, but I'll just say it now. Very thankful for you reaching out to me a couple of years ago and just almost a random phone call and saying, you need a radio show, you need a podcast. I'm like, I don't know about all that. I'm like, well, maybe. But, and as I prayed into it, Stu, I found that, because part of my prayer is, Lord, give me a larger audience, a broader audience. Obviously I got the wrestling community and the ministry community, but how do I merge those together? Right. Give me a broader audience, a greater reach, if you will. Yeah. It was kind of like an aha moment for me after that 3-hour meeting you and I had at my house. And I was like, well, hello, I mean, radio and podcasting. And to that note, to this date and time, and by the time the show airs, it'll be even more. 59 countries have downloaded the It's Time to Man Up podcast.
Great.
And because of your vision, this television show exists because of this man. Because that's what they gave me the idea, thanks to Rick Joyner and MorningStar TV, to launch a Man Up TV show.
Wow.
And so you get all the credit for that. I know you won't take it, but you get credit.
We give God all the glory, of course. But it's just nice to see, as everyone watching right now, they're seeing someone shine in their giftedness. I mean, God's, and it's really interesting. It happened when you were speaking a whole other language. It was broken Russian, and you were behind the mic. You were in front of millions of people.
Yes,
on television.
Yes,
and the muscles were bulging, and you were creating nightmares in the minds of all kinds as the Russian nightmare. So to see God, and I heard you speak, and we had interacted some through just ministry channels. And one day, Robbie Dillmore, the Christian Car Guy, and I were sitting there talking. We're like, okay, elephant in the room, or let's say massive Russian man in the room. Why doesn't he have a radio program? why doesn't he have a television program? He's like, so it's just neat to see how we're ultimately, we're laying the crowns at his feet. We are, like Tony Evans says, I'm a beggar showing other beggars where they can find bread. In fact, I'm going to change my title from CEO. I'll make it official on your program. How's that sound?
Okay.
I'm gonna change my title right here, right now.
Okay.
I am no longer the CEO of the Truth Network.
Okay.
I am the CSO. I'm the Chief Serving Officer.
Ooh, you heard it here first on the Man Up Show. See, you're going to get lots of firsts here on the Man Up Show.
So,
CSO.
CSO, I'm serving the king. I go meet with Nikita Koloff. I'm serving you. And the question is, how can I serve you? That's the beautiful question. Who did Jesus say was the greatest? Did he say these big rock and roll, whiz-bang, charismatic, guys at the top? No. He says the greatest among you will be the servant. He said the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve. Then he said, as the Father sent me, I'm sending you. What did he send me to do? To serve. You get stuck in a relationship, you're having problems connecting with people, let me tell you, do one thing and everything will change. Start serving. Having problems in your marriage, do one thing in that marriage, everything will change. Start serving your wife. Well, I'm trying. Well, I'm taking out the trash. Out-serve your wife. Have a contest. Who can serve more? And watch what God does. Ask your wife every day, how can I serve you? And you watch your marriage change, because that's the way of the master.
Never apologize for who you are. Be who God has called you to be, and be boldly.
Hi, Nikita Koloff here, and I am excited to announce the first annual MorningStar Men's Conference, August 25th to the 27th. Our theme this year, Man Up. It's time. And we have a phenomenal lineup of speakers, including NBA All-Star Al Wood, WWE Superstar Lex Luger, Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, David and Jason Benham, the Benham Brothers, Chris Reed, and of course Dr. Rick Joyner. Let's not forget world-renowned evangelist Frank Shelton. Click the link below and sign up early. You do not want to miss this event.
You know what's interesting about that comment? I'm going to tell you exactly what comes to mind right now. A couple, husband and wife, friends of mine, longtime friends of mine. In fact, I led the guy to the foot of the cross at a school assembly, an after-school assembly. I think sponsored by the FCA or one of those types of organizations. Yeah. And huge marital problem. And the word to me is, well, I work all day and provide the food. Put food on the table, and I come home, the house is a wreck. And now, mind you, they've got 5 children, so it's not like she's eating bonbons,
That's right.
all day, and she homeschools.
Oh, there you go.
And he comes home and goes, "Why isn't this house clean? Why isn't there food on the table?" Yeah. And to your point, I'm like, dude, you're approaching this with the wrong attitude and the wrong mindset. Why don't you go home and serve your wife? I don't care if you've been working out in the marketplace all day for 8 hours. To your point, I know a couple person right now in that situation.
That's it. I have lunch with Nikita Koloff. I sit down in a nice, comfortable, air-conditioned room with you, talking to people, serving Christ, spreading the gospel, and she's been working hard. And she's
full time, 24 hours a day.
That is a job. I'm telling you. There's a great story about this, Nikita. The husband had a pretty good job at the bank. The wife was a stay-at-home mom. They go to this dinner with a bunch of uppity-ups at the country club. They're sitting around the table. I heard this on the Truth Network, this story. And all the women are going around, and they're kind of looking their nose down on the stay-at-home mom, because they're all saying, well, we all go around saying, what do you do for a living? The one lady's, well, I run a pretty big real estate company. The other lady's like, well, I'm a executive assistant to one of the top guys at the bank. And they're going around. They get to this wife who's a housewife. And they say, what do you do? Well, she just arches her back up, gets her chin in the air and says, I'm a developer of future leaders.
Come on.
And then she said, you can take that to the bank.
Come on.
But you think about that investment that our wives are making,
right?
Women are making,
right?
And not all are able to, but folks have sacrificed. They've sold a car, they've downgraded, downsized their lifestyle in order to pour in to these future leaders of America, and it's pretty awesome. But we've got to really see it that way, and it really takes the vision. It really takes connecting with God to see that service, and to not try to rule or try to get, but have a heart to give.
You know, I really hope, like for real, I hope you are listening to what Stu is saying, and you know, whether you're a husband and wife, with or without children, or not even married yet, a man. This is the Man Up Show, right? But a lot of women watch the show.
Right.
You know, are hearing what he is saying and receiving it. Receive it in your heart of hearts, because you're bringing across some very strategic points. Not only for the success of a marriage, but just success of a relationship as a whole, and so man, that's good stuff.
Well, I'm grateful for my wife. She's raised our 4 daughters: hope, grace, joy, and faith. And I always tell people she works a lot harder than me. And I'm grateful for my mom, who prayed for me and taught me a lot of the scripture that I quote today. And I resented it, and I was running around, and I was worried about wrestling with other, watching you and doing all this other stuff. But now I thank God, because a verse from the scriptures will just roll out of my heart, and I don't know where it came from. Well, it came from a mom who sacrificed a lot, who could have been doing a lot of things, but she poured into me. And so that's the unheralded. Now, we give them credit on Mother's Day, but maybe we should all go hug our moms and thank God for them.
Yeah, 365 days a year. Let me say this too. So you bring up really another valid point. And if you're a wife out there, if you're a mother out there, and Stu, you probably would agree with this. Society today, I have found, in fact, my own daughter. So I've raised 4 girls as well: Taryn, Tawny, Kendra, Colby.
See, we are girl dads. How about that?
We are
man?
girl dads, man.
It.
We got that in common as well. But and so. It's interesting, though. 2 of my daughters have chosen to be stay-at-home moms, even though they had careers. Once they had children, they chose to stay home and raise the children, and have told me, Stu, that people, when they mention their stay-at-home mom, like literally almost look down their nose at them, like, exactly right. That's all you do? That's all you do. Like, if you only knew. Wow. But I say that to say, when I look at my grandchildren and what those daughters are investing in those children, taking nothing away from my oldest daughter, who, her children go to a Christian school, so they're still getting the word poured into them. Sure. But her and her husband have 2 full-time businesses, very successful businesses. Yeah. But I want to say to the moms out there, if somebody's looking down at you, looking down their nose at you because you're just a stay-at-home mom, please don't be discouraged by that. Listen to everything this man is saying. Please don't be discouraged by that. We recognize you are the CEO, if you will, Amen. CSO of your home, and serving those children and pouring and investing into future leaders. Exactly I like that.
And that's not to denigrate or to undervalue the role of the man to jump in there with those kids, right, and to talk straight as fathers of daughters.
Right.
Now you think about that. Right. When our babies were first born, these little girls, right? Everyone's like, well, you better go buy a shotgun. Now, they didn't need to say that to you because you had 2 guns like that.
I had my Russian chain.
You had the Russian nightmare and everything. But when our kids became teenagers, all the joking was off.
Right.
It got real serious.
Right, absolutely it did.
And so just some straight talk to men. The Bible is very clear from Genesis to Revelation that the number 1 person on the planet that is to protect that daughter's virginity, to protect her purity, and to prepare her for marriage is the dad.
Yeah.
In the Hebrew culture, all the way through the church, the dads are to protect their daughters. Now, fathers aren't to provoke their kids, right. Ephesians 6:4, right? But to raise them in the fear and the admonition of the Lord. Right. So dads need to be active. Don't wait till they're dating and marriage age to finally dial in and cut back your hours at the firm or at the firm or at the farm or wherever you're working.
Right.
Sacrifice and spend time with those daughters and sons, because they're downloading the image of God from you. And I asked this man of God once, a godly guy who speaks all over the world. I had like 5 minutes of coffee with him, literally, because I had to go into a seminar. He had to go to his next seminar. I said, hey, let me just grab you for 5 minutes. He said, I got 4 daughters. I don't know what to do. They're starting to get in dating age. What do I do? How do I prepare? He said, let me tell you something, Stu. He says, they're going to marry you. And I kind of started to shake a little, like, what did you just say? He said, they're going to marry you. So you got to decide what kind of man you're going to be. And I thought, wow. So, daddies, date your daughters. Love on them.
Yes.
And don't send them off alone with a dude.
Yes.
Don't feel like you're over, but don't overbear, but encourage dating in groups. And vet the guy. You have every right to talk to him. Does he love Jesus? I'm tired of, hey, let me tell you what's a bad sign. When my daughter or your daughter brings home a good guy. I don't want my daughter dating a good guy. Oh, well, his folks go to church. Well, I think, let's see, they had a copy of the Bible somewhere in a drawer in their house. No, I want my daughter dating a God guy.
Godly guy. That's good.
That loves Jesus. So
that's
just
good.
ask that simple question. Does he love you? Don't be judgmental. Does he love Jesus? Well, stop saying no. That's where you get right there. Where's the beef?
That's the core.
Does he love the Lord? And are you preparing her?
Foundational.
Yes. And are you loving her in such a way that she would want to marry someone like you, as opposed to running away and the father wounds, which you talk about a lot on your TV and on your radio, which are out there, which we all need is grace. I mean, we've all blown it as dads, and so now we're granddads. That's scary.
Yeah. Well, and I like what that you brought up that point, because that was one of the things early on that I emphasized, and I know it sounds like you did as well. Date your daughters and spend time with your sons, whether it's going out hunting with them, fishing, playing sports with them, throwing the baseball, football, whatever. But I made a point of early on dating those daughters and going to school, in elementary school, having lunch with them, taking them out for lunch. Just taking them on dates, opening the car door for them. Yes, I actually did that.
Awesome. Little things like that go a long way. That's great.
Yeah. And my daughters have told me, to your point, my daughters have told me when I started looking for a husband, I was looking for somebody that what you modeled to me, Dad. So let me ask you this, Stu. So we're talking about Truth Radio Network. We're talking about some really good things today, by the way. We could do a whole show just on that itself. Where can people, I just want to get this in. Where can they find Truth Radio? You got an app too. They can download an app.
Yeah, it's all at the website. You're at the website, truthnetwork.com, which is real simple, truthnetwork.com. Learn all about his radio show, learn all about the different programs. Maybe there's a station like where you're watching this in your market. If there's not, we'd love to find one.
We're trying that way,
reach more people, or there could be a station that carries your program.
Okay.
Maybe not be one of our stations, but they're one of our awesome affiliates, and so we're grateful for that.
And if they download the app, they can get every podcast, every radio show, everything.
What I tell young people is this phone right here is a radio.
Yeah.
And you can listen to I can't listen to my radio right now because I'm in here, not in my car.
Right.
But during the break, I can click on the Truth Network app and listen 24/7 to great Bible teaching.
Awesome. So download the app. All right, listen, so 60, 90 seconds, Stu, okay, max. So I'm going to have you look into that hard camera. And what do you, as we close out the show today, you already said a lot of good things. What would you like to say to men specifically? Just look in that camera.
Well, I like to say two things. Number one, if you want to be the man, you got to follow the man. And you've got to follow Jesus Christ. He is the man's man. And quit trying to do for him. Stop and recognize and get absolutely mesmerized in and just lavish in the amazing things he has done for you. Be defined by what he has done for you. Who you are is all based on whose you are. And Jesus Christ said, John 15:9, as the Father has loved me, so I love you. Now abide, remain in my love. So be defined by him. Get to know him. We can't fix anything. I can't fix anyone out there, and I have more problems than you might even think I have. But let me tell you something. I want to introduce you to someone who can change your life, who's changed my life, who's turned this Russian nightmare into an amazing man of God, the devil's worst nightmare, and helping Christians now find their dreams in Christ and find hope. His name is Jesus. And when you connect with him, it changes everything. And I would just remind you of what Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. In the state you find yourself that God has called you in, remain with God in that state. It's like, I hate my job. Well, go right back to your job, and guess what? Watch God do miracles. Bring him into that. Well, I can't stand my marriage. It's a ball and chain. No, it's not. You're in that marriage to see God work mightily. Yeah, it's two sinners in one marriage, but God wants to use you to serve your wife and for the two of you to be a team to reach the world for Christ. So you're not divorcing that woman. You're not leaving that marriage. And in those relationships, wherever you are, where God has planted you, bloom for the glory of God. We got to stop running away from those things. And read 1 Corinthians 7. Paul's pretty clear. It's some rough stuff to a carnal church. Stop running away from that and run to Jesus. Follow him and watch him work in you and then through you to introduce other people to Christ. You might be the only Jesus they ever see. You might be the only Bible that they ever read. What kind of Bible are they reading when they watch you, when they hear you, when they see you post? Are you pointing people to Him?
Man, that's a good challenge. That's a good challenge for all of us. And so, Stu, I can't thank you enough for being on the Man Up Show today, and thank you again for having me on the Truth Radio Network and on the podcast platform. And take that challenge. Take that challenge. If you don't know Jesus, today be a great day to surrender your heart to Him and drive your stake in the ground. I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Man Up with Nikita Koloff. Real stories with real men. Here we are today. God bless you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Man Up Show. For more content, please visit us at www.morningstartv.com.
Hello, I'm Rick Joyner. I wrote 4 books last year, but these are, I believe, some of the most important I've written in a long, long time, maybe even ever. This one is called The Second American Revolution/Civil War. It came from a dream I had in 2018, a very graphic dream, when the Lord started showing me things that you can see even from the time I had that dream in 2018. This is already unfolding. And anyway, this is about that, and I throw in a lot of the other information and knowledge of what's going on so that we can discern the times and know what to do in them. Now, this is another book I wrote last year, The Awakening. It's about my personal sojourn. I wrote this one of the most important I think I've written in a very long time, on Marxism and its strategy for destroying America, how it has almost already finished the job. It's infiltrated our schools, the media, entertainment, virtually across America. And they formulated a 45-point plan in the 1930s for taking over America, the Marxists. And they have just about finished the job. They have very systematically and very patiently gone after every one of these, and I lay out all 45 points, how they have been working those points, and how many have been accomplished, how they did it, and where we are now, and what we need to do to reverse this. It is not too late, but if we don't act soon, we're going to lose our democratic republic to this ultimate evil and this ultimate enemy of liberty and freedom. We have to understand this basic military principle. You cannot defeat an enemy you do not see. And to see means to understand it, to be able to perceive it as it's working against you. And I believe when you read this book, you're going to see all of the places that it is now manifesting itself and seeking to take over our country. Lieutenant General Jerry Boyk and myself wrote this book together on the principles of war, taken from Clausewitz's 12 Principles of War. You know, Jerry and I used to teach this. He would teach each principle, lay out the military application, and then I would take each principle and lay out how you could apply the same principle in business and schools and missions and virtually any endeavor. And it helps to plan strategically, have clear objectives. And there's a saying, those who do not know the principles of war are going to be used and will serve those who do. Well, these are simple, easy to understand. Jerry had 36 years in military, one of our greatest military warriors in our generation. And I've been studying military history and history in general since I was 15 years old. Studied Marxism since I was 19 years old. But we combined and condensed that knowledge into something you can read in just a few hours. It's powerful, it's written to the point, succinctly. We try not to waste any words, but you can get it and start applying these. And I believe to the degree that you apply them, you are going to be successful. We're going to let you have all of these together, and we're going to pay the shipping. You're not going to pay anything but $49 for all 4 of these books together. And I believe you're going to be so glad you got these and have read them, because every one of them is relevant to our times today.